Whakalofo atu, my name is Elliot Ikilei, Deputy Leader and Takanini candidate for New Conservative, and I'm here to join with our fellow brothers and sisters of this beautiful nation to stand up for our freedom, our democracy, and the erosion of those rights that we're seeing.
So what is it that's happening here at the moment?
So what's happening here is that we're having a downtime, we're having a bit of a debrief from the march that we've just had. It's been great, it's been exciting, it's been beautiful, actually, to see that men and women and families are standing up for the erosion of the rights that we see and the facts that this government is not able to create this silly blanket of illusion over the rest of us.
What do you feel the government has been doing wrong?
So the government, what we do know is that from the very get-go, the government did not actually go fast or hard, as they like to put out their hashtag. We know that they went slow. When they did start to react, they reacted in such a harsh and undemocratic way that we saw that the very power transferal from the overall people of New Zealand into the hands of so few, which was the Labour New Zealand First Greens government, that now we're in a position where we don't even have all rights over our children, over rights of our own very ability to freely move and interact as humans need to.
You said this government did not go fast or hard like they said. Does that mean you think they should have gone faster or harder?
Yeah, I think so. If you were going to do something, if you needed to react, even if this... Now, I think that COVID is real. I do. I think it's real. I don't think it's a... I think it may be synthetic, but I do think that it is real. Now, in terms of that, if you were looking at to protect yourself, you would have protected yourself when we said so in the 25th of January, when it was already going to Singapore and Italy and Thailand and those other areas. But this government did not. They waited even 8 weeks after we called out the government until, what was it, I think it was the 23rd of March or something like that, when they finally did react. The problem is that when they reacted, instead of engaging in healthy distances and health practices, instead of that, they locked us down into positions where our economy is now nearly in ruins and in tatters, that we are now left open to other power transferals to the government, and the fact that our own people are starting to really suffer, psychologically speaking. We're still waiting for proper suicide figures. We're still waiting for proper domestic violence figures that will equate to a lot of the damage that we've seen.
Yeah, expand further on that point about what are these harms of lockdown that you're referring to, and how do you balance that against public health concerns? Where's the balance?
So one of the big ones, of course, is the fear aspect that we see on our streets. We see a lot of fear. We are seeing also the fact that jobs are creating extra stress. So I've been walking around Takanini and talking to so many of the small and medium business owners. Every single one, not most, but every single one is absolutely scared of what the future holds. And if they drop down, if they lose those created employments and businesses, that means that the jobs that they look after are gone. And those follow-on effects from that are exactly what we will see. We will see further financial struggle. We will see further needs to increase taxes, further dependence on the social service numbers and the tax dollars. We're going to see more suicides. We'll see more brutality and crime. We're going to see it all. And all because of a government absolutely mongering fear amongst our people also for a sickness that has been seen to be so incredibly small in number that we're not even sure as to what they are telling us is even transparent.
That fear you speak of that you see on the streets, where do you feel that's coming from? Is it just from the government, or do you feel like maybe the media is helping feed that and whip up clickbait hysteria?
Well, I think we've got a fourth estate that is not so much broken as it is partisan. So we do know that many of and even our state-funded broadcaster, they are more about views, not news. And I think that we've got a situation now where they are just sort of trying to find their market share and trying to get their money. And I think that they are adding to the struggles by not presenting a good and balanced discussion on all of the issues. One of the examples that I usually put out there is the fact that most of them have signed up to the Covering Climate Now document, which clearly states that they will only present one side of the climate change debate. So when you've got a fourth estate who are very clearly partisan, how are we as the people being able to engage with news and make us informed as opposed to misinformed?
We have an election coming up very shortly in a few weeks. How has the government mandated lockdowns interfered with your ability to campaign lately? How has that impeded the campaign?
I think it does in certain ways. For us, it's absolutely fine, because what we've been able to do is we've gone now online. So now that people also are not believing, and you'll see that swathes of New Zealand citizens are actually removing themselves from just listening to the mainstream media in New Zealand, we see them going off to online sources and cross-referencing themselves. Well, we exist in that environment. So we're very strong in terms of online information and media. We are also, over the last 2 years, almost every single week, we have been in the top 3 for online engagement. And so we're already online, and so it works for us, absolutely works for us. In terms of the operationals, then that becomes more of a problem, because you've got Labour, of course, who have their taxpayer-funded, what I call the taxpayer-funded PR campaign that is basically showing Jacinda Ardern up on the screen, making her look as if she is a hero. And there's even been the very recent drama around them using Ashley Bloomfield, who is actually a public servant, in a PR campaign strategy. So you can, there's a very clear issue around what the government thinks is independent, what is actually independent. So we love it. We think it works for us. We know that the government did not want to have this extension of time, because of course for them, their taxpayer-funded PR campaign means that people will be flooded with stardust, and then they would vote. So they want to get this election done as soon as they can, so that people are fooled into believing that the government is a goodie when it's not.
It does sound like you think there's a very clear conflict of interest in between the government's role to govern the country versus them having their eye on the ball for the election just around the corner. It's quite a conflict of interest perhaps for them that they're struggling to manage.
I think what it is it's purely they don't really know what they're doing. When we look at 2017, we were spending at one point over $700,000 taxpayer dollars every single day for working groups. And of course, working groups come up with ideas on how to fix stuff. The government, of course, did not come in with any ideas, and they have failed quite miserably along the way. If they can throw out enough of the benefits that are based on the COVID and the billions that they're spending on that, what they can do, or what I believe that they're trying to do, is to fool us all into thinking that, hey, they're looking after us, we will forget all of the consistent and constant failures of this government, and then they will just vote them in like sheep. Now, what's great about days like this shows us that people and families are realizing the truth beneath the benefits and the continuous borrowing and the incompetencies of this government. We can see that what's going on is actually a government who is opportunistic in using a natural disaster or a synthetic disaster in order to transfer more power and to get back in off the back of that.
Yeah, definitely there's been billions, hundreds of billions spent. And you've got a question like, was that the best use of the money? And has it been bringing the country forward or just putting generations of debt upon us? Like, really, our future children.
Yes, absolutely right. What we've seen is that it's approximately 96-97% of New Zealand businesses are small and medium businesses. It's the private sector that will help us out. Your baristas and your renovators and your fencers and your car mechanics and all the people that's needed to do that. But this government is just incredible in the fact that they have stopped all of the working that really should be able to exist in a healthy way. We could have social distancing. You can have all of those sort of health practices in place to do it without locking down and stopping the very freedom of movement of people, as well as the ability to engage in the free trade market and in the private sector. So what you've got is you do have a situation where you've got quantitative easing, which is printing money, and then on the other stage you've got the ideas where they are starting to look at borrowing billions and billions, up to $200 billion was the last account, and we don't even know really where that's coming from. Now you want to link that in with the Belt and Road Initiative, then we've got a situation where we're not even sure as to whether we're being treated in an ideologically safe environment. So I think we're in for, I think our children are going to suffer immensely, and our children's children will as well. Like I said many times before, this election will be the most important in New Zealand's history. Forget about Muldoon and Savage and Holyoake and Palmer and all of them. This goes all the way back to 1852 Constitution Act days, and that's what we really need to be aware of.
Thank you very much for your time, Elliot. You really gave some food for thought. Any closing comments?
This year is the most important election ever in New Zealand's history. This year we do win everything back or we lose the rest. So when you vote, be very aware as to what's happening in our system, in our lives, and the future of our children. So I would say God bless you, and God bless this great nation of New Zealand.